Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brian and I are continuing our top 100 games of all time. We are now in the first 50, the best 50 out of every game ever made, and this is the first segment of that. So, with that being said, for this segment, I have three new ones. 4 fell and 3 rose.
I have 2 that rose, 7 that fell, and then 1 new one.
1 new one. All right. That'll be exciting. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with number 50 right in the middle, which this game could easily go back up because they did actually make an expansion for it. I just haven't had a chance to try it yet. It was number 30. It was number 30 last year, so it fell 20 spots, and in 2020 it was number 30. So fell purely just because I haven't played it yet. But it is a wonderful game in the T series. Not quite. Let me see. Let me just Not quite my favorite in the T series, but it is my second favorite. If that's indicative of anything that's coming up, and that is Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire. Now, this one kind of took me by surprise because I basically got this a couple years ago purely for it being in the T series and by Board and Dice, and so far they haven't ever really let me down. When I was setting up this game, I pulled out like the player aids and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be an ordeal to teach. But because of the player aid that they give, it actually makes the game relatively smooth. Like, it seems like it's going to be way more complex, but I feel like Tekhenu is actually kind of more complex than this is, because everything is just kind of centralized and localized on that main hexagon, pentagon.
Yes.
And it's really interesting because like you're placing these workers, and the workers do different things based off the color that they are. So and if you place them on spaces that match like their color, they get bonus actions. But you have to manage your resources by depending on where you're trying to go on one of the sections. Like, they're broken up into 5 different sections, and you pay more because you have a little I think it's shaman or a little mystic guy that's moving around the center of that wheel. And the further you are from him and the further down you go, the more resources you pay. But some of the actions end up permanently getting placed on, so you might have to go further. You can clearly tell that this is like like in that T series, and especially if you've played Teotihuacan, there's like stuff that just kind of just naturally looks familiar. But yeah, this one I just really like. I really like the action selection of it. I like the fact that the different meeples have different special abilities. That kind of gives me a 5 tribes kind of feel. There's still set collection for that. You're trying to get different icons from these those little totem looking figures over on the right side, and you're utilizing cards with excuse me, with patterns on them to also do different set collections. Like in Teotihuacan, how it had the masks, you're trying to do that with different like quilt patterns, I think is what it is. But yeah, I mean, this one is extremely solid. Took me by surprise on how good it is, especially because I played this and Tekhenu around the same time. And Tekhenu is kind of, I mean, it's still really good, but it can feel like it's a lot because there's different god sections and you have to know what each god does, and this one doesn't have that. So it feels a little bit more focused. And I'm very excited to see what the expansion brings, because the Teotihuacan expansions were very, very solid. Let's see, I can look it up real quick. It adds 4 modules. alternative layouts to the Sun Temple, secondary action that lets you utilize specialties of other nations. So new buildings, and then an improved and streamlined solo opponent. Oh, that's actually interesting because I thought the solo variant for this wasn't that bad. So sounds
Right.
like the expansion kind of improved upon it. But yeah, that is my number 50 to Wanton Suyu.
All right. My number 50 is a game that's been on my list for quite a while. It's been right around this area. It was 45 last year and then 47 and 45. So it's just kind of hanging right around in that end of the top 50. It's a game you have not played yet.
Cool.
I think you will like it because you own it. It's still in shrink on your shelf, I think. But that is Rajas of the Ganges.
I have played this
Oh, you did
actually.
play it.
Yep, I finally I've been working on that Shelf of Shame. I finally played this, and I was gonna say Calico. The ugly ass
Zappasack?
art. No. Starts with a C. Wow, I'm totally drawing a blank. It's the ugliest art you've ever seen on the board
Oh,
cover.
yeah. Concordia.
Concordia, yeah. I played that, and I played Rajas of the Ganges as well.
Yeah. Which one did you like better?
This one,
Yeah.
yeah.
This one.
Funny enough though, I'd rank him about the same.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd say they're pretty close.
I'd give them both like a 7.
Right. I mean,
Maybe
for
on an 8.
Concordia being an older game, I mean, it still holds up pretty well.
Yeah, this I only played at 2 though. Even though I thought it worked really well at 2. I think maybe having one other person to kind of fill up, because like both him and I were just able to do whatever we wanted. There might be a little bit better if you have contention of dice placement.
Yeah, this one is pretty neat. I've always liked this because this was the first game I played that had the crossing scoring tracks, and that's what kind of set up the end game. I mean, nowadays everybody talks about Arc Nova and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
You know how it kind of does the same thing. This one,
oh yeah,
you know, you're taking the game in hits just like in Arc Nova when the fame and money tracks cross, and whoever has crossed furthest, that's your winning thing. But what I like about this is that it's worker placement. You also have dice placement, or you can spend dice for stuff. I also like that the dice, you aren't screwed by horrible rolls. Like you can still use the dice to you can sell off the dice or use them for different odds and ends and stuff. So if you do roll kind of shitty, you are able to still do stuff. And then I'm a fan of games like Carcassonne and Isle of Skye and stuff like that. So you kind of have a little bit of that feel with this as well, because you're laying down tiles, and if you can connect them back to your deal, you get the resources and all that stuff. I always get vibes now that I've played like Boone Lake. I always get that feeling with that with that damn river on this.
I know.
A lot of games have started using stuff like that, but yeah, so you can your worker placement, you're doing different things, you're gaining points. Those different locations you can go to. One of them is just to gain income from your buildings. One of them is to move your boat, and then if you move your boat by spending your dice, and that's how far you move, and wherever you land is kind of what resource you get. There's just a lot of cool stuff to do in this. It's a really pretty game.
It is, yeah.
And I don't have any of the little goodie boxes yet. I need to buy those because they're like little module expansions that you can pick up for it. I haven't picked up any of those yet. This is one of those ones that I don't remember really getting a lot of fanfare when it came out necessarily. But it's always been a really solid like I'm not gonna say it's kind of like an early level Euro. It's not super complex,
Yeah,
but it's
next level.
Right. This would be almost like before Boone Lake, like you'd have kind of the different stuff.
Yeah, it's in that same vein as Voyages of Marco Polo.
Right.
It kind of has that same production quality.
Yeah, and this is just one that's just really cool. I like how you have the little statue thing. You put your dice in over the side, and it's like they're holding the dice.
Mhm.
So it's just they just did really well with this. And this one came out. Shoot, when did this one come out? It was 17, maybe. Yeah, 2017. So it's been out for 5, 6 years now, and
Yeah,
and
and
they really
they
haven't bloated it a lot. They could have put out a bunch of expansions, but they do those two goodie boxes, and they add just little modules you can throw in without adding a
right.
whole lot of substance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I mean it's solid. I don't really have any complaints. I mean at 2, it's definitely really good if you're that kind of player that doesn't want to get in anyone's way. It's like, oh, I
Right.
just want to do this. Um and yeah. Yeah, I mean I don't have any issues with it. The designers are interesting because I think they're the people that do the Exit games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep, which I just did the Lord of the Rings one for that, and I can officially say I am over the Exit games. Like I'm not getting any more.
Well, they also did Village.
Yes, which Village is one that I kind of want to replay.
I have it. We can always do it if you want.
Yeah, yeah, that one was an interesting concept as well, but also had it just looks like if you were to look at Village and this, you'd be like, oh, that's the same designer.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that for sure.
All right, yes. So finally, I was able to play one off of my shelf that you were talking about.
Yes.
Okay. My number 49 was 28 last year and it fell 21 spots. And then 2020, it was 63. So I can tell you exactly why this is kind of jumping back and forth. And that's because in 2021, I played it multiple times. And and then I just haven't since, even though I've had multiple opportunities to. This is one of those games that I'd rather play with people that I know, especially one because it's going to be so long and it has heavy negotiation. I just don't want to deal with trying to do that with strangers.
Right.
Because you never know, like you betray them and then they just fucking pull out a knife and stab you, and you're like, oh, cool, yeah, we were playing a game and now I'm dying. But this is a phenomenal 4X game. Like this is an experience on top of an amazing game, and that is Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Uh, which I don't think you've actually finally ever played, right?
I had a day set up and then it got canceled, so I
That's
haven't
right.
touched it yet.
That's right. Yeah, this is definitely one that you do kind of plan for, at least I do. And every time I've played this, it has always been an amazing experience. Like just everyone's in, especially when people are invested. And so this is why I like doing it with friends because everyone's there of the same mindset, but it's not like hyper competitive. Like you don't have strangers who have something to prove or anything.
Right.
Um, but yeah, last time I played this, it was a 6-player game, which is like the sweet spot for me. It's just such an amazing experience. Like I said, it's a 4X game, so but you have your own faction with special abilities, and especially with the expansion, it's definitely almost needed. To have different like ship powers as well as special race powers, and then you have with the expansion, you have like different like adversaries that you unlock as the game goes on that have unique powers. Like one is like a passive ability, one is like a once per turn ability, and the other one is a once per game ability that are tied to your faction. Uh, different there's a tech tree that you can go on. There's combat, which the combat is like the weakest part because it is just kind of rolling dice, but each ship hits on different numbers, so it's not like, oh, you only need 5 or 6s. Like you have a range and you have ways to mitigate it, so it's actually not horrible. Uh, and you don't really win through combat anyway, so it's not that, it's more of a defensive measure. Uh, there's politics in this, which I have yet to actually see any game that actually implements a mechanism with politics that has cards and laws and voting. And so, and then it's just that for 8 hours. But honestly, every time I've played this, like if people are into it, the 8 hours flies by, and then it's like, oh, wow, okay, didn't know the whole day was already gone. And I do like the fact that this is to a certain number of victory points. In the shorter game, it's 10. I think the longer game is 14. So the game will end. It's not just like Risk where you have to take control over everyone's home planet or wipe them from the board. But yeah, I mean, this one I really have like no complaints about. Fourth edition is just vastly superior in any of the other editions. So definitely I would highly recommend it. This is definitely a game that I don't recommend for anyone to actually own. Like if you have a gaming group, one person maybe just to have it. But yeah, this could easily be a lifestyle game. I know that a buddy of mine who I game with up here, he yeah, this is his favorite game of all time. Him and I actually did a ranking of all the factions um for
Interesting.
TI. But yeah, he plays online and he says he wins relatively he wins quite a few in person, but he's never won online. I'm like, well, yeah, because people who are playing that need to go outside. But yeah, that's my number 4, Twilight Imperium.
All right. Well, my number 49 is one that has always been on my list. It was really high last year. It was at 14 last year. But it was in the 40s. It was like 40 and 39 the years prior. And I think last
Interesting.
year is just because I played it a bunch that year when I was trying to compare it to another game
Yeah,
in the same theme, just to see which one, and it kind of won out that year, you know, and that is Imperial Settlers. That
gotcha.
there was that time, you know, when Empires came out, Empires of the North, and I was got into really playing a lot of the Empires North, a lot of this.
Mhm.
I think this one at that time was my preferred one, so it got really highly ranked. And then I haven't really touched it as much.
Yeah.
This time I've been playing more Empires, but that's the one my wife likes more. So,
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I actually don't own this game anymore.
really,
Yeah, I was gonna do like a just a separate videos of all the different factions, like solo, and the factions just didn't come out as much as I wanted. Like
yeah.
Empires of the North just really, it's like, hey, here's what your faction does, and I like that.
Well, and I'm getting ready to start playing the Lighthouse solo campaign for that.
Yeah, played 2
And
episodes of that.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Um, and then I should here within the next few months, I'll be getting my ultimate edition of 51st State, which will probably or push this one off
That's true.
because this game was based off of the old 51st State card game. That's where this game came from, and that way, you know, I had the Empires of the North, and then 51st State's pretty much this game with post-apocalyptic theme, more or less. So this one may
Yeah.
even fall off even more once that comes out. But anyway, this one, you know, you are picking a faction. You have your little board, your little narrow board there in the middle, and you are building buildings out, whether they are part of your faction or whether they're common buildings that you're drawing from in the decks. You're competing with other people. It's got your worker placement. You're gonna place a lot of workers out on cards to do stuff. And what I've liked about this game back when this first came out, especially and stuff, was the whole deal because you produce resources at the beginning of each turn. So when you make all those deals, like what they're doing with these cards here, you're giving up a card out of your hand and deck, but you're putting up here, and those are going to be resources you gain at the beginning of each production phase, along with what your cards are doing. This is late game here for sure.
Oh yeah.
With all the cards and everything out, but
Yeah.
but yeah, this one's just pretty cool. I like the solo mode of this one. I liked it a lot more until Empires came out. I like the solo little specialized solo
The scenarios.
scenario, yeah, for that one. This one's still good. I'll probably always own it just because, you know, if I'm going to try to get a game like this played, more people are going to gravitate towards this than 51st State, most likely, just because of the theme and stuff. But this one will probably definitely slide off, I think. But yeah, you know, I mean, this one, they've had a ton of stuff for it. I think they're finally done with it now since Empires came out. It's been kind of good. I think they've been supporting that one more.
Yeah, they might be. I don't know if they're done. I don't know what their plans are after Wrath of the Lighthouse, but they just announced another game in the Imperial Settlers world.
Interesting.
I just saw it like literally today. I think it's Imperial Settlers. It's very tiny, but it's
Oh, of
like
course.
Empire Miners or something
Really
about mining.
interesting.
I was trying to find it just so I had some reference, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, this one's still a really awesome game, but it's probably just going to keep continuing to slip as other more updated, streamlined stuff starts coming out and stuff
yeah.
like. But it had its time in the light.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like there's nothing wrong with this game just because I sell games doesn't mean like I'm like, oh, it sucks. Like, but at the time I kind of was in that waffling of which one I liked better as
Right.
well. And I played both recently and I'm like, Empire is just I like that the factions are all different.
Yeah.
And I like that you actually get to choose what actions you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing too.
And what you produce stays. It doesn't just go away for some weird reason.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, to each their own.
Yep. Yep.
All right. My number 48 is new to the list. I cannot remember if it's been if you've talked about it yet. If you haven't, then I would not be surprised, but this is definitely the new latest hotness in the board game world. It weirdly took the world by storm whenever it was like announced and people started playing it. Now it's like number like 4 on Board Game Geek. It's like, oh, it's the greatest game ever made. And I mean it's extremely good. Like I really only have one major complaint with it, but even then that's not that big of a deal. And that is Arc Nova.
Mhm.
My major complaint with it is that it's extremely long.
Yes.
Then it's what?
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
I have not said this yet. So
Gotcha. Ooh,
yeah.
suspense. Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with Arc Nova, it's a game where it's an engine building game where you are running a real life zoo. You have your own map, which you place enclosures and stuff as you gain stuff for placing tokens on various locations on your personalized map, collecting money that allows you to buy cards, which then you can play into your engine. Whether that's certain types of animals, certain types of campaigns, certain types of enclosures or projects or whatever it is to get you fame and it was like reputation and then
That's reputation and I can't think of the stupid name of it now.
yeah, but basically like Rogers of the Ganges, you have 2 tracks that are going up. One is going up
Speeds.
on those like on the ticket sales, so how many people are coming, and then the other one is like how popular or how reputable your zoo is. And kind of whenever those 2 tracks meet, that's when the end game is triggered, and then you do some weird final scoring. Final scores are usually low or in the negative, but that's fine. Like it's just really who is more positive than everyone else. Yeah, I mean this game is fantastic. Like it's you're going out and getting universities that help you with icons that let you place more animals into your enclosures or into your zoo, which is therefore your engine. A lot of people compare this to terraforming Mars. I do think they're different enough. Like I see the similarities, but they are completely different that you can own both. This isn't the same thing as like Great Western Trail to Great Western Trail Argentina, where it's like, this is pretty much the same game, just a different theme. This is, I mean, especially if you really like zoos, which personally I actually hate zoos, because I feel bad when I walk through them. I'm like, oh man, but it's still wonderful. Like I actually like the real life art because it is real life animals, and it just works extremely well. Like I mean, I know a lot of people kind of complain over how your game can be screwed based off just how that deck comes out. Like there are so many cards that you could have a objective that's like, hey, you need small animals, and they never come out just because you didn't grab the small animal portion of your thousands of cards. So I do hope in the expansion they address that in some way. Like there needs to be some way to kind of mitigate that instead of having 2,000 cards in a stack.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
think the coolest thing about this game, I think, is the unique, like the whole action mechanic
yeah,
with the card, the action selection. That's really cool. How they're even upgradable, there's and all that
hmm
stuff. That's just really neat. And from what
yeah,
I understand in the expansion, there's actually going to be different action cards you're going to be able to
sweet,
put in and stuff too. So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no, you're right. The action cards are kind of depending on where they are in your row 1 to 5 is how powerful they are.
right.
So no, that is a really cool system. I mean, this one has just been talked about like to death on every channel in existence and just on every, page. But yeah, if you're a fan of Terraforming Mars and you like zoos, then you can't really go wrong with this one.
Yep.
It's
I would
my
agree with that.
48.
All right. So my number 48 is the game that you actually let me borrow, I believe. I believe you let me borrow it. That was my first um intro into it.
Cool. You're
I
welcome.
I think you still own it. And I actually used one of your really old how to play videos for this. you're in your old school
Oh,
setup.
geez.
But yeah, this is one. It was 40 last year. It was new to my list last year. It slipped just a little bit because I haven't played it as much. But this is a card game based upon a video game IP.
Okay.
That's probably one of your favorite video game franchises. And that's Dark Souls,
Nice.
the card game. This
Nice.
one
Did I
is
do a how to play on this?
you did. It's really
Wow.
it's pretty rough.
I don't even remember
It's old.
that
It's a long time ago,
that's
but
funny.
because it was done like with you way back from it, it was before you had all the extra cameras and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But
Wow.
anyway, but yeah, this one I've never really messed with the Dark Souls card or video games, but I like deck builders, and this one's kind of a deck. Um, I would say like a deck. I guess evolving. You evolve your deck. You kind of change up your deck as you play.
hmm
Because
Some might call that a deck builder, but yeah.
well, yeah, but you're evolving. You're because don't you have to get rid of? Cause it's been a little bit
You
since I
do,
played.
yeah. You have a
Yeah,
certain, yeah. I guess that's true. You do have a certain number of cards that you're allowed to have.
right. So you're kind of evolving or
True.
changing it up. But anyway, you are working through all these different scenario things, fighting enemies, doing all this stuff. Um, but you're using cards for your battles, but then that's also kind of represent your life. So then you
hmm
don't get those cards back until you rest at a bonfire. So you kind of have to balance all that stuff out. You're eventually trying to get to a big bad dude. Um, but I think what's cool about this game is just I really like the direction they took with the art on the cards. They're
hmm
just everything is dark, obviously, dark, and it's just everything almost is like a museum piece. It seems like to me like it's a dark, and it's just like, oh, here's a sword, or oh, here's
Oh
a
yeah.
shield. You know?
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the art on it's really neat. And it stands out, and then you have your combat, is done kind of like they show in the middle of that picture there, where you're placing your cards out, you're battling. There's kind of a spatial deal. It almost in a weird kind of, I mean, it's not the same. It's a loose comparison, but it's almost kind of like a little deal like Too Many Bones, where you're you're
Yeah.
you're you're doing your battling out and stuff, and placement matters. You kind of have to move your cards around and do different stuff. Uh,
hmm
and it's just one of those games, I have all the stuff out for it right now. I haven't really messed with the last expansion a whole lot, but uh, but yeah, this is just a really cool game that, from what I hear, compared to the board game, I would think this would be a better. This is a better version.
Yeah, yeah. This is essentially what I was gonna say was if you're a fan of the Dark Souls IP, and you also play board games, then don't bother with the board game and just get the card game, it's going to give you that same feel without the feeling of grinding. Like,
Right.
which, I mean, I know grinding is part of the video game, but in the video game, it's snappy. Like, you just go out and kill a bunch and then you go rest at a bonfire and boom, they're all back. In a board game, it's not like that. You probably spend hours just by resetting up the board to fight the same enemy.
Right.
It's horrendously bad. And this doesn't have that. Like, leveling up is super quick because, I mean, it's just a deck of cards. I mean, and it's hard too. Like,
It's, yeah, it
because
is.
especially if you're playing purely solo, all the enemy attacks hit you.
Right,
So you have
yeah.
to be very smart with your stamina and your deck building. So I do enjoy this. The only negative I have is the box is so bad.
Yeah, I have one of those. I don't know what you like the little sports card boxes that have like the 2 lanes.
Oh yeah.
You know, the cardboard thing. I have that, and I like cut out the nameplate of the game and put it like tape
Okay.
it to the top stuff. So that's kind of my box holders because it was ridiculous.
You almost
how
have to
all
do
of this-
that. Otherwise, there's just, I mean, maybe there's a 3D printed insert somewhere that makes it work. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steam Forge Games did this one right. So far, everything else, they're kind of 0 for 2.
Well, maybe they just need to stick with card games.
Maybe they're not gonna. I mean, because they're working on Elden Ring.
They're working on everything.
Yeah, Elden
They-
Ring,
they-
Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh, there was another one they were doing, Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Which Monster Hunter I can see actually being good because the Dark Souls board game had really good boss fights, and
Don't
that's
don't fall for it.
I
Don't
know.
fall for it.
I know. I have Bard Sung, but that was given to me. But that's their actual only original IP, so maybe
Right.
that's good. I haven't tried
Yeah,
it
maybe.
yet. But yeah,
Good deal.
that's a good choice. This is a solid one.
All right, perfect.
Okay, my number 487 is actually, funny enough, a game I no longer own because I got rid of all the games of this designer that that I had just because I probably won't ever I never feel the need to actually play them except like the first time I get them. Or I'm showing them to someone else. But this one is absolutely fantastic. I think it does this genre so well, and especially because it became fully cooperative instead of competitive, that just made it even better. It was 21 last year, so it fell 26 spots, and it was 22 in 2020. So it was higher up there, and then it fell. And then if I do what I did this year, it won't even be on the list. But I can kind of see myself picking this back up. I actually sold it to a friend of mine who really wanted it, and that is CO2 Second Chance. So the designer for this is Vito Lasarda. He does these heavier kind of Euros, but this was actually before he was with Eagle Griffin. So this is kind of one that's not even in those big deluxe boxes. And as you can tell, this is about like CO2 emissions and kind of global warming. And the entire game is you guys working together to try and do away with like fossil fuels and replace them with various alternative methods, be it recycling, water, electric, solar, or reforestation. It's extremely difficult to win. This game is so hard because every country has their own like ways that they're utilizing fossil fuels in their own requests. They're randomized throughout the game, but so you have to try and meet their demands while they're also still utilizing fossil fuels. So you're kind of in the red like the beginning of the game until you can. There's like, I say the hardest part of this game is like the beginning, because you're just trying to get that like the leg up. It's like, okay, if we can break it, if we can end this round neutral or slightly in the positive, then it's like smooth sailing from there, which is extremely thematic. This is one of his most thematic games, I think, because it's relatable. It's also, he can take legitimate data
Right.
and run with it. And I think a lot of people are kind of realizing that his games that are grounded in reality are his better ones, because Weather Machine doesn't seem to be, a lot of people's favorites because it's kind of like, well, this doesn't really make any sense, or I can't understand these heavier rules because I have no basis of reality to pull from. Whereas in Vinos or this one, it's like, well, vineyards exist and he can use that. Global warming exists, he can use that. It's just so good. I remember the first couple times playing this, it was like my friend and I would just be like standing, like trying to figure out our best strategy to try to win. And then it gets depressing because then you're like, oh wow, look at that. It's past 2020, so we're still failing. That's cool. 2030. Oh wow, still failing. And the game is hard like that by design. Like it's meant to make you feel like, hey, by the way, we might already still be fucked. Like 2040 might come around and hey, nothing's really getting any better, even though we have these reforestation plants out there. Yeah, so you also have, I mean, you do have these global objectives you have to meet by getting scientists. Like right now, that yellow meeple is working at a hydro plant, and then you can use that worker to go and talk at a summit about hydro plants because that's what it went to go out and study, which then lets you flip down objectives. And the more objectives you have flipped face down, the less hit you take at the end of the round because it's because you're actually accomplishing stuff. And then yeah, of course, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, why'd I get rid of this? Like I kind of want to go play it now. But it's this one I don't want to eat my words, but I'm pretty sure this is my highest Vita Losardi game. This is my favorite that he's done. So that's my number 47, CO2 Second Chance.
All right. Well, my number 47 is a game that I believe you've already talked about in like the last segment or two.
Cool.
It was 41 last year, 82 the year before that, because I really started playing it a lot more. This is one of those games that popped out that's solo only.
Okay.
And it kind of came under the radar, the release for it. But after getting it played, there's just so much game in the box. And that is Under Falling Skies.
Yes, I did talk about this, I think, in the last segment.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I knew it wasn't too awfully long ago. But with this one, I mean, just like what you had said on that previous deal, this is an outstanding solo only game. I mean, like CGE took this game because this was a print and play only game, with just like, I don't know, 16 cards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they turned it into this deep game with nice visuals, and you have the dice components and the little plastic spaceships and all that stuff. They brought in this and all the campaign, which is pretty much just you're doing city to city stuff and different setups, but the uniqueness of this with your dice, the puzzle of knowing if you're going to place this dice here, the high number is going to be really good for you, but it's also going to make them move down faster, so
yeah,
it's such a damn crunchy game when you're just sitting there by yourself and you're just like, oh my god, what am I going to do? and it's just amazing to me that how stuff like this, is how this just got made. I mean,
right.
I don't know the steps from when it was a print and play to now, and like exactly, but I never even touched the print and play to even know if it was even similar. I mean, I don't even know if it used dice or anything like that, but
yeah.
But this one is just, of all the solo only games that came out around that time, because like Warp's Edge and Proving Grounds and all that stuff, this one is the best of them. I have a couple others that I've gotten this year that I'll have to weigh up against this one, but it's going to have to be pretty decent to surpass this one for the amount that you get because it's a cheap game too. You don't spend a
Yeah.
whole hell of a lot of money to get it. I mean, I think I spent like $25 for it,
Something
and
like that, yeah.
there's a ton of stuff in this box. You definitely get your money's
Yeah.
worth of it.
All
Uh,
the like the tracks that like the aliens move down, those are double-sided, like for like harder level
Mhm.
locations. Because you can only destroy them if they land on certain like those orange explosion
Right.
spots. So yeah, I mean, so whenever you're placing dice, you're mathing out, okay, if I put a 4 there, oh, that'll move that on here, which means I can use the gunner to shoot it down. Uh, yeah, it's amazing. Super crunchy, but not like overly difficult, I feel. Like it's not like, well, I mean, I roll a die and that's really all in just I hope I roll high.
It's tense.
It's
It's tense. That's what it is.
tense. Yep.
Just having that mothership keep creeping down lower and lower and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was just an awesome one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it was just yeah, Justin talked about in the last segment.
Awesome.
Okay, my number 46. I don't know if you have played this game, but it rose a little bit. It was 56 last year, so it rose 10 spots, and it would have been brand new in 2021. This is a polyomino game that I finally got like the wooden insert and like the I guess like everything for because I think they went on for a second Kickstarter. Uh, Absolutely love this theme, and the polyomino aspect of it really just helps that because I enjoy those kinds of games. And that is the Isle of Cats.
I own it and haven't played it yet.
Gotcha. It's well, it's really good. I really like this one. I like the fact that like the theme is you're going to an island of these unique mystical cats and there's some guy who's like coming to like kill them or skin them or some fucked up thing. And you're going to be like, "Hey, let's save them before he gets there." And that's the round tracker. So you're getting them and putting them on your ship and you need to manage like certain types of like movement and baskets to go out and actually carry a certain number of cats back. And well, what do you know? They also have treasure. So you're also trying to get treasure that fills up your boat. And you have objectives that you're meeting. What's really cool about this game is it's like they have a lot of just different things that they threw into this game. Polyomino, objective, set collection, and then card drafting and resource management. So, because you need fish, because whenever you're drafting your cards, you can keep a bunch, but you have to pay more resources to keep that. And what's really cool is if you can have personal objectives that you can keep, but there's also public objectives. And if you discard the public objectives, it goes into the play area. And so now everyone can score that. So there's some decisions on what you want to keep for yourself. It's a, can I even complete this objective? Do I want to put it out there for anyone else to do? While I'm also trying to get certain cats because you draw from a massive bag that denotes, just randomly what cats are available to get that round. It's and you can see kind of at the bottom left the different families because there's the colors are the families and however many you have, that's how many points you get. It's just, and it's not super competitive, but like it's very family like lightweight, but not, I don't know, I'd call it almost next level gaming, but I don't know, it just has a really good feel to it, especially because I really like cats, that I'm like, yay. What's really neat is on the insert of the box lid, it has like a target and it says place cat here. So it's a box.
Oh yes.
You, you can put your cat in there and hope it stays and doesn't jump out immediately. But yeah, and then I know they have a bunch of modules which are just different cards that you throw in, but they have some expansions which are like unique types of cats, or they have kittens which are even smaller, like polyominoes, which is very, very cute. They also have monsters that you can kind of rescue. That's a different type of expansion. Yeah, I mean, like this one weirdly got like a 10 out of 10 for me because I just had no complaints. Like everything that they added in this game just works extremely well with everything in it. Like there's not one thing that it's like, oh wow, that's kind of odd. Why'd they throw that in here?
Right.
I highly recommend it. Like, I'd have to do a quick look, but if I were to probably do a top 10 Polyomino games, like this might hit number one. I think it just does everything in that genre extremely well.
Yeah, I'll
So,
need to get it tried.
get
For
it
sure.
played. I don't know if it
All
has
I
a
have is
solo
the
mode
base game.
actually.
I'll have the base game. I don't have any of the other
I mean,
stuff. But
that's all I had. I mean, base game is just as good. Like, I actually think, like, I do like the expansion, the Kittens and Beast expansion. But, and then they have like a boat pack, which just kind
right.
of changes the different layout. But yeah, I mean, the base game is, I mean, I think it's fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Well, my number 46 is a game that was a Kickstarter that had some issues, got picked up by another person and finalized a new edition of it. They say that it's best with 2 to 4 players. I strongly disagree, and I know you will too, because this is best at 1 player. It was 35 last year. It was new to my list last year, so that was the only time it's been on there. And that is Apex Theropod deck building game.
Yeah, whoever is saying that this is best with 2 or 3,
it's the
like,
publisher is what it says on the deal, because it
yeah,
says
he
it's
wants more people to buy his game.
publisher recommends 2 to 4 players. We played it because I'd only played it solo up until you and I played this game, and we played that 2-player game, and I was just like, this is stupid.
I'm like, this
And-
sucks.
right. So
Oh
solo's
man,
the-
you're separate.
right,
Like,
right.
Predator came out before mine and yours was easier than mine. That's cool.
Yeah. So solo is where this game is at. I mean, this collected edition specifically has like all the different Apex Predator decks and everything, and including the expansions and all that stuff.
Mhm.
You're going to take this pre-built deck and you're going to use it, and you're going to try to evolve your creature, your species. You're trying to all these events would pop up that would cause different hardships and stuff. You're going to come up with all these different dinosaurs are going to come up that you're going to actually need to defeat. You're laying eggs, hatching eggs, all that good stuff. And you're just all the while, because when you hatch these eggs, you get to put more stronger versions of these cards into your deck, and stuff like the Raptors, for instance. You're just getting more and more. They go by numbers, so they're pack animals. But T-Rex, you're just getting huge versions of your T-Rexes in. So there is one main Apex deck that doesn't fit right now, and the reason it's the Megalodon. Just because what happened is the first company that did this, they did this Kickstarter for all this stuff. They didn't get it completely sent out to people. So like some people got half of their stuff and some didn't get it at all, and all this stuff. Well, Outland Games, I believe they're out of Kansas City area, picked it up and redid a new Kickstarter for all this. So I don't know if they have plans on bringing, because I think they were gearing towards a water version, which would be kind of cool if they ever did come back with that. But what I like about the company that picked this up is that all those backers, Chad Denton being one of them, they sent him all the stuff that he didn't get, even though
cool.
He didn't. Yeah. So I mean, it's good stuff like that when you see these games get picked up by responsible people. But the art on these cards is really cool. Like the cards that do like all the genes and all the traits and all that weird cool stuff is all really neatly done and vibrant stuff. And this is just one of those ones I have a blast playing, just because you're evolving your deck yet again, but you're trying to survive. It's a survival thing, and trying to make your race dominant and become the apex predator. And if you get this box, there's a lot of things to choose from. There's a lot of different, I mean, hell, you even have the zombie dinosaurs and the mecha dinosaurs. I've never touched those because, but
Yeah.
Have them as an option.
Yeah, they're there. They probably make more sense than the Megalodon does in this
Yeah.
game. Just because it's immersion breaking is the Megalodon.
Yeah.
Um, even though I have no idea if like the Megalodon was around the time of these kinds of dinosaurs,
I
because I
think
don't know how
so.
much
It's
actual.
just, yeah, I think they were. It's just a matter of getting. I would love it if this same company, where they were making like a ocean version. That would be,
That'd be cool.
you know,
Yeah, I
like a
mean, it would make the most
standalone.
sense. You have this apex where it's like all land
Right.
predators, and then you have one for the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how
this
the
one's really good.
progression of the dinosaur games always are. You know, they always start this way, and then they just like Dinosaur Island did that, and
Yep.
all these they just go
Well, it's
from
all
land
the
and then they go to
nature. I
water.
mean, yeah,
Yep.
what else are you gonna do? There's Meadow, which is adding water, and then Ark Nova's adding water. I just don't, yeah, it makes the most sense.
Right.
Yep, this is a good one. I've thought about owning this myself. I just haven't pulled the trigger.
Just don't play with more than one.
I won't ever. All right, my number 45 was 50 last year, so it rose 5 spots, and in 2020 it was also 55. So yeah, what was it? Hold on. No, it was 50 last year, which means yeah, it was 55. Anyway, whatever. This is one that, funny enough, I actually haven't played in a little bit just because I'm waiting for the collector's edition to come out, and then I'll have it all organized. It'll be nice and it'll be playable versus like the hundreds of different bags I have for stuff. And that is
Huh.
Robinson Crusoe. Ooh, I actually think this is this might be the new cover for
It
it.
looks like it. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so Robinson Crusoe is one of those extremely difficult cooperative games. This was one of the first cooperative games I ever played, and it's been probably on my list ever since we've been doing this. I can't. It's now, of course, fallen over time as just I'd rather play other cooperatives, but this this one is scenario based, which I know with the collector's edition is actually coming with like a scenario book, like a spiral bound book, which is going to be awesome. And it has just a lot going for it. Like it's survival, it's event based, it's story driven. I mean, not really story driven, but there's story events that kind of go on. It's programming, which is really kind of like how your workers are. Like there's a new game that came out called Frostpunk, and everything Frostpunk does, Robinson Crusoe kind of did before.
Right.
So you have those tiles that have different resources on it, whether it's unique animals or just wood and fish that you need. You need food to feed everyone, and then you need wood to use to uh, build shelters and weapons and stuff like that, as well as you can get fur later on. But yeah, depending on the scenario you're trying to complete, you have objectives, you have special actions you can do off the scenario. Like the very first one is you're just trying to get enough wood to build this massive bonfire, and if you're able to do that in a certain amount of time, then you win. But when you're going out and doing actions, everyone has these two pegs that you can either go like you can send both to one action, which means it's a guaranteed success, or if you just send one and it's one person doing the action, you roll these dice, and the dice might cause you to be injured or have an event or succeed, or maybe you fail. But one of my favorite things about this game is that event deck. So if you shuffle it, or not shuffle it, whenever you go and do an action, you flip it, and there's a top portion and a bottom portion. The top portion is what happens, and the bottom portion is the consequence. And
Right.
so like an example I kind of always give is whenever you go out and explore and you come across this hut that has a bunch of food in it, and you're like, oh, perfect, yay. And then it's like, do we take it? Now I've always played that you just cover the bottom because I don't like meta knowledge. So it's like, do we take it? And that's just a decision you have to make. It's like, yep, sure, let's take, because we get 5 food. Then you take that card and you shuffle it into that top left main event deck, and your consequences will come back to bite you. It's like, oh, this attracted a bear, and now you have to fight a bear. And if you don't have any shelter or walls to defend yourselves, or even high weapon like levels, yeah, you kind of get hurt, and a lot of stuff gets removed, and all that food you just got is now gone. It's It's amazing. The scenarios they have are very creative. Like it's not just, oh, gather wood on this cursed island. It's like, well, okay, what's cursed about it? You can do Cannibal Island. There's one about a volcano that erupts. There's one that has mystical creatures on it. I don't know how many scenarios are coming with the collector's edition, but I'm just ready for that all to be organized and just easier to set up. So,
I have this. It's still in shrink though.
Jesus Christ, that shrink is probably like warped into the box at this point.
I just bought it not too long ago. All right.
I mean, I think you'd really like it, especially solo,
Yeah.
like-
Yeah, I'll give it a try at some point.
because every character you play does also have special abilities and special items that they can craft. And yeah, I think this is incredibly thematic. It doesn't look like it. Like if you were to look at this board, it kind of looks just like, I mean, there's the tech tree really over on the right, but I actually enjoy this board. I kind of like how everything is organized into its own section. It just works for me. I enjoy it quite a bit. Very hard, very, very difficult to win.
Yeah.
I have won, but not often.
All right. So my number 45 is another game. I believe you own this as well. This was one that I used to see all the time for sale, and I just never really thought it looked good. And then I found out it was really good at solo. So then I bought the Legendary Edition. It was 93 last year, and it was new to my list last year. And it's jumped up quite a bit because I've actually played it, and there's a new expansion that's getting ready to come out here probably in the next month to us. And that is Maximum Legendary Edition.
Nice.
This one, like I said, it didn't really, the cover didn't really grab me a whole lot. I used to see it at like Miniature Market all the time and just thought it was, I don't know what I thought it was, but
Yeah.
But yeah, this one actually turned out to be a really cool game, with having the board setup always being different. You're laying out all the cards and stuff. You have all these different with this Legendary Edition, you have miniatures for your heroes and stuff. And you also it comes with all the extra expansions as well. So like the Gothic Horrors and the Kaiju, and I think there's like a bug one maybe, or they're Jurassic Perils, stuff like that. But so it's always been really neat because I mean you choose your character. They all have special powers. Some are more melee, some do this and that better. But your whole goal is to find enough gas and get to the van.
Yeah.
Get to the van. But it's and this isn't a super simple game either. I mean, it's not as difficult as like your Robinson Crusoe that you just talked about, but it's still up there. And then this new expansion, the Wasted Wilds, I think, or something, like I can't remember what it was called, but it brings climate into it. So like you got to watch out for not freezing to death or not being too hot, stuff like that. It just adds more stuff to it. And this is just one that over time, I've just kind of really gotten into and have a blast with it because like it's one of those it creates the narrative for you as you're playing it. When you're playing your cards and all that stuff. It's just a kind of a cool design.
Yeah. I didn't touch this one because I thought it was just purely nuclear apocalypse. I'm like, okay, whatever, like that's done to death. But then I played it and found that, oh no, there's a bunch of different types of apocalypses.
Oh yes.
So and they call it oh man, where was it? Hold on. Yeah. So the description is interesting because it says it's a cooperative roguelike adventure game. And roguelikes are a genre in video games that mean every time you play it, it's different every time. Like it's procedurally generated map and enemies and stuff. And normally that's done really well in video games because of how quickly you just reset. Like games like Dead Cells, it's like, oh, died, okay, start all the way over. But out of a board game, it actually does do that because your what's interesting is your setup is dictated by the players. Everyone's shuffled and dealt out tiles, and it's like, okay, place them. It's like you could play a game where it's just a line if you wanted to.
Yep. Yep.
You can make the shape of a penis, and just be like, oh, this is the map we're on.
I
And
made a playmat, or not made. I bought a playmat from a guy that designed one that
Really?
has all the grids, so you can kind of set up however
Nice.
and stuff. But
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. That's probably for them to reflect the procedurally generated maps,
right,
not just because I mean, yeah, I think you just shuffle the tiles and you just randomly deal them out, except for the van tile, of course.
right. But no,
Yeah.
this is just. Oh, I guess you know what? I got to talking. I didn't even.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this is kind of a setup. They're all face down, and as you're going around, that just happen. I mean, it's like I said, the art is very, very distinct and stuff. So it's kind of some people may hate it. Some people may like it. It's just, but
I
it's
like
just
it.
really, yeah, I do too. It's just one of those kind of cool Ameritrashy games.
Yeah, every character has their own deck and special way to play.
Yep.
So I'm trying to figure out what scenario this is. Oh, it's the Lovecraft.
Oh yes, yes.
Because I can see the Byakhis, and I think that's just straight up Cthulhu.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well that has 66 health. We're dead. Yeah, this is a good one. I don't know where it's at on my list. Maximum Apocalypse. It was, yeah, 129. So not in the top 100. Still really good though.
I bet it'll jump up next year if you like the expansion.
Yeah, if we ever get it.
And we're supposed to get it here in the next month or so. It's shipping out.
Yay!
So
Yay! Okay. My number 44 is going in the complete opposite direction of this. Yeah, I don't have a segue, so we can go to number 44. It's Paladins of the West Kingdom. You know how so not post-apocalyptic in any way, but extremely medieval. This is the second game in the West Kingdom series that it was 91 last year, so it rose 47 spots. And in 2020 it was 136. So you could say I kind of like it, but
it's because of the art.
that's it. Yeah, it's completely because of the art. I finally came around. My top 10 new games are all art with the Miko. So yeah, so let's talk more about the art. No, this one I mean, I don't know why it was actually so low in 2020. That one was kind of weird, but uh it's just like every time I play this, I'm just reminded about how good it is, and the expansion that it brought, which might have been why it jumped up a little bit higher this year, because the expansion it offered more uh like avenues of strategy, but also kind of made it less tight, because there's one aspect of this game is like the tavern phase, and that's kind of where you draft cards that you that have your workers. So the different colored workers in this one can go to various locations. And so if you're wanting to attack people that are kind of at that bottom row, I don't know why those are face down, but normally there's a row of people that you can go out and attack, or you can go and convert them. But you need a yellow meeple and then anything else. To convert them, you need a black meeple and two of anything else. And then but those green buildings make it cheaper. So as the game goes on, your strategy becomes more efficient. But the tavern phase is kind of where you're like, what you're hoping for certain colors to come by. And that's probably the only real randomness, because if you're last in the draft, it's like, cool, well, obviously you're going to take that one, and that leaves me with nothing. But it's not the worst thing, because you can mitigate kind of some of your meeples that you're sending out. But yeah, this one has a really cool, like all three of the game. Well, actually, I don't know about architects, but Paladins of Viscounts have a neat kind of system of the way you use your deck. So everyone has relatively the same deck of cards, but whenever you draw, I think you draw 3, choose one to discard, one to put on top, or one to use and one to put on the bottom. And that's kind of gonna enhance some of your actions whenever you're doing them, depending on which card you use. So there's that. You're collecting more civilians that give you special abilities as well. This one just hits on all levels for me. Like, I love strategy games that allow you to kind of pick a path and just be like, I'm gonna try this strategy, and they've all been balanced. There is some kind of randomness. Because you can build walls, like castle walls, and those might have victory points or just an inherent strength value. Those you kind of top deck, but I've heard some people do where you like draw 2 and pick one, or there's a row of face up ones that you can take.
Right.
I don't see how that would. It might actually enhance the game a little bit better, because kind of causes for some strategy if everyone can see what's available. But yeah, I waffle back and forth on whether or not this is better than Viscounts. So I'm like, they're both extremely, extremely good. But
I need you to show me Viscount sometime, because that's the only
absolutely.
one I haven't played.
I played it not too long ago.
Yep.
Let me. Is that
I think
on
you
our?
added
It
it
is.
to the last time.
I
Yeah.
certainly did. So it's on the list.
All right.
Yeah, I'll definitely show you.
All right.
But yeah, that's my 44 Paladins of the West Kingdom.
All right. So my 44 is my one new one to this list. It's
Cool.
going to be on. If you haven't talked about it yet, you will talk about it. It's going to be on your list at some point.
Okay.
And it is. I really don't have a segue other than that.
I know, right?
The other one, and that's Return to Dark Tower. This one, I'd never played.
Actually,
the
it's my 227.
Seriously?
No.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't
fucking
know if
hate this game. This game sucks.
But anyway, yeah, Return to Dark Tower. I mean, if you don't know what this is, you must be living under a rock. I mean, this one really hit hard. It was a game that everybody clamored for the return, because everybody wanted the old original 1981 version. But what Restoration Games did with this one is they put their money where their mouth is and made one hell of a achievement of that tower.
Yeah.
And everything with using your phone to do it, and it doing all its cool shit and moving around and kicking out the little skulls and all that stuff. I mean, it's just outstanding what they did. And I mean, I haven't even touched the expansions yet, and we have kickstarted expansions still, or game founded expansions, whichever one it was, still coming,
Yeah.
So but the replayability is really cool with just this base game. And the production is nuts, it's definitely a top-notch cooperative game. I mean, you're still going, and we had talked about this at times before. I mean, depending on how things, because it is random. I mean, just like a lot of these things are, but there can be instances where this isn't a very tough game to necessarily beat. But that's what's good about that first expansion that came out. It added all those different colored skulls and added more complexity and more stuff to it. So,
and you can turn on the app to have a grueling mode or whatever it's called.
Right. So I mean, that's what's cool, is they can just add that stuff to the app. I mean, they put a lot of money into that tower, I know, but they could have just made that what they spent their money on. But the game itself and all the components and everything are just really cool too. And
this one I wasn't originally gonna get, because I was like, I've never played the first one. But then I saw the designers of Rob Davio and Isaac Childress, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
What? I'd have to look at the other ones because I don't recognize them immediately, but they had 6 designers on this thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, if Isaac and Rob are on it, it's probably going to be good. And yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. And just having the way the map's broken up into the east west, the cardinal directions, and having that being kind of, it's just, It's just really, really smooth, really, really cool.
Yep.
And
It's been a hit every time I've played it. And
yeah,
last Gen Con, a friend of mine bought everything for it.
yeah, and it's good to even solo too. So
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I never thought about playing it
yep,
solo.
I play multiple heroes and
Nice.
solo. So yeah,
Awesome.
that is my number
All
44.
right. My number 43. This is one of the ones that fell a little bit. It was number 29 last year, fell 14 spots, and it was 37 in 2020. This one fell just because I haven't played it. It does require kind of a little bit of prep time and a particular group. However, I do think that this game is outstanding in what it does, and it's incredibly unique in the genre. Because, I mean, this genre is done all over the place, but this is the only one I can think of that does it in this way. And that is Detective City of Angels, which is by Van Ryder Games. And that's just kind of a company that I keep my eye out on. And they've done, I want to say, 2 expansions for this, which has added more scenarios. But and art by Vincent Trade. So, I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's got to be amazing. This one is, and the reason why I say this one is unique because it's detective. It's like Sherlock Holmes and Chronicles of Crime and all that. But what makes this one unique is that it is actually run by a kind of, they call them the Chisel, but it's essentially a GM or a DM. One person is the one that knows the whole story, knows the case, and controls kind of the characters. But what's also different about that, it's like, okay, whatever, there's a GM. The Chiseled is actually trying to win, which is also interesting. He's intentionally trying to mislead people when they go and like when the green person goes to talk to that lady, like the Chiseled can willingly give out information or make it or give false information, and it's up to the players to utilize their actions and their special abilities to be able to kind of like for example, if I have that girl go to that, oh honey, I didn't see anything, and it's like you as the player can be like, yeah, I'd like to threaten her. And if as the Chiseled I did give incorrect information, then now that gives them a leg up on me, so in future questions they could be like, oh, I want to use that token I gave you for you to actually just give me the right answer, because everyone is trying to solve the case like you would in Chronicles of Crime, like you would in um, Sherlock Holmes and all those. But it is competitive. The first person to do it is the winner. It's but what's also interesting about that is if I did give them the right information and they threatened her, then I now can force them to do something because they basically threatened an innocent person. It's like if people are going to locations, people can spend money to hire like a I don't know what they call them, but like hire someone to like follow them. So it's like, oh, you got to look at a card. Well, I also get to look at that card because that person I paid came back with that information. There's quite a bit of scenarios here. I with these kinds of games, like I just love more and more scenarios. That's kind of why I keep Sherlock Holmes around, because I have 40 different scenarios and no other game in this genre has that many. It's yeah, but this one is awesome. And I also like the fact that if people aren't quite as good as at these games, well, the Chisel doesn't have to be a dick about it. He can make one person really work to try and solve the case and make it easier for another person. Uh, so I just think this is incredibly unique and definitely one that's worth checking out.
yeah,
And the 2 expansions just added more scenarios. There's like nothing like weird about them.
yeah. This is one that I had seen a lot of, and I'd always been interested in. You'd talked it up a lot, and about is maybe 5 6 months ago. I think I finally played it for my first time. Had a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
fun with it. Yeah, it was a
Oh, you
good one.
liked it? Awesome.
Yeah, I actually
You're gonna
won. Chad was the chisel, and I ran away with it.
Nice,
So
nice. And also if you're not if you're someone that's like, well, I don't want to be competitive in this game, you can play cooperatively.
mhm,
And I've done that too. It works. It's like those other ones. If you love
right.
Chronicles of Crime, but you've played all the scenarios and you just want a new one, you can play this cooperatively, and it feels just like those other games. So they did a really good job at. The main focus is the chisel with the competitive nature, but the fact that they also made it cooperative and it wasn't dog shit
Right.
is a testament to how good Van Ryder Games is.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm kind of excited for Dark Quarter. Like I ended up backing it like as a late pledge because it's only like $150 for like a bunch of stuff, and it's with Van Ryder Games and Lucky Duck, and it's fully cooperative, which
Yeah.
Destiny's was not.
Yeah. I didn't do that. I'm thinking about doing that other new Kickstarter though. The Once Upon a Line or whatever.
Yeah,
That one.
the scratch off game, the
Yeah.
scratch off crossword game.
I'm considering it, but I don't know. We'll
Mhm.
see. All right. So my number 43 was 101. Last year was
Ooh,
my honorable
top
mention to
100
the list.
honorable mention.
Yeah. And it's mainly there because I've actually played it a couple of times this year. And I still feel like I've just scratched the surface. It's a fairly complex, deep game that I need to play more just to kind of find my groove with it. But I know it's a great game. It's actually in the top 5 on the BGG right now. And it is Brass Birmingham.
I just played this.
You did, huh?
I did. Huh.
Yeah, this one, I really want to get the poker chip money for it. I don't have that version, but
That would be nice.
yeah, you can buy them. They sell them on their site. It's
Really?
like $50 or $60 for a thing of deals. But anyway, this one, Industrial Revolution, and you are pretty much, you get 2 actions a turn. And the game is broken up into 2 halves. The first half you're dealing with canals, and then the second half you're dealing with it's like a train game more or less. You're laying rails and stuff, and you can you're just trying to get the most victory point. I mean, you're trying to build up your area, and be the most successful in it. So you like your actions, you can build stuff, you can pay in resources. You can add a link to your rail or canal depending on what part of the game you're in. Develop, you can sell goods and stuff. A lot of people like the whole beer aspect of this game. I keep hearing that a lot on stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can obviously take a loan. And then this is a redo of the original Brass game by Martin Wallace.
I thought that was Lancaster. Because Brass Lancaster, I thought was actually Brass, and this one was kind of.
This one is the Brass.
Oh, okay.
Because it has these same 5 actions, and then this version adds the scout action because the original didn't have the scout action to it. But yeah, I mean, it's still better to look at now. This version, the original Brass, was god awful to look at. And actually, yeah, those are the chips.
Those look really nice.
The iron clays are what they're called. But yeah, it doesn't look. It's kind of one of those games. It looks complex, but then it kind of doesn't look that complex. But it is complex.
This game is weird. Is how I would describe it. It's not complex, but it's more complex than like you would give it credit for.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those. It's just a strange deal.
Yeah, like when people are explaining what you do in your turn, you're like, "Yep, all that makes sense." And then you're going to play, and you're like, "How the fuck do I sell stuff?"
Yeah,
and you have to build links to those various markets. And then once the resources pop off, then they flip, and that's what gets you your income and your victory points. I didn't do too bad. I played a 2-player game against a guy who has played this, and I think I lost by like 9 points. Like I was actually pretty proud because he definitely went in a lot more buildings, and you can get a lot of points. I went off of the links,
right?
Victory points for links. That's what I aimed for, and I mean, I was pretty proud of my score.
I suck at this. Apparently, I get put out every time. I just that's why I was saying it's one of those you need to put time into it. I think the ones that rank it so high, the reason it's top 5 on BGG, I think, are the ones that love this game, like play
Yeah.
it constantly. Um, and I can see where that's at. And I haven't played Lancashire yet. But but yeah, I mean this one is definitely an improvement from the original, and
Hmm.
and it's a good one. It's probably it's
Yeah.
and I haven't played a whole hell of a lot of Martin Wallace games
I haven't either.
really, and that so this makes me want to kind of look at more of his stuff.
This one, because I don't know how I quite feel about being able, like, because whenever you place buildings that have like your coal goes on top of that. But if someone has a link to that, they can just use it. And I don't know how I quite feel about that. It's like, yeah, if they use it, then that flips your thing, which is going to increase your income and victory points. But I don't know. For me, it's like, well, I built that to use my own fucking coal.
Yeah,
Like, it's different than like, I don't know, because Black Angel, you can use other people's dice, but no one prepped to place those dice out. That's
right,
kind of what bugs me about this one a little bit. Is like, well, I actively went out of my way to do these previous 2 turns to get this level 3 iron out, and I'd like to use it. Oh, nope, you go next. And so then you took it, and now I basically have done nothing.
right.
So it's again, like that's not even really a complaint. That's just a thing in the
Right.
game. I'd also probably give this like a 7. Like it's right there. I'm not like jazzed about it. I'm not like, oh my fucking god, Brass Birmingham.
Mhm.
Like hell yeah. Like but I'm also like, yeah, no, this is really good. I'd play it.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm in between. Like I think it could become a really, really, really good game for me if I just need to play it. 'Cause
Hmm.
I've only played it at 2.
Same.
The 2 times I want to try it with the 3 or 4, just see if that
Yeah.
changes and makes
The
it more.
guy the guy I played it with, he says it's a solid 2 player game, but he does think 3 um
Mhm.
like is a sweet spot because it does open up the board. It allows for more resources to be put out, but at the same time more people who could
Right.
take yours. But I think there's more resources that are going to be generated more than people that can just take your resources.
Right. Yeah.
Um so
Yep.
yeah, I think 3 would probably be really good on this.
Yeah. I have to try it at some point.
All right. Well, good choice. Funny enough, all the games that some of the games you've been mentioning, I'm like, haha, finally played
I
it.
know. I was like, wasn't expecting you to have played it.
Uh, yeah, he finally brought that over, and because he's been wanting to play it, I'm like, all right, fine. All
Well, and
right.
you've played my other 2 also that I'm going to say. So you're just
Well, there we go. Yeah, you can't surprise me anymore.
yep.
Because this my number 42, there's no way in hell you've played.
Are you sure?
Not that I don't think you wouldn't like it, but I don't know if there's anyone in your gaming group besides me that actually has this game. But this is brand new to the list as well. This is another their newest game by Mind Clash Games that I very much enjoy. I cannot wait for episodes 3 and 4. But as of right now, episodes 1 and 2 are incredibly solid, and that is Perseverance, Castaway Chronicles. I want to say, man, I can't remember if there was someone. Oh yeah, I was watching Paul Grogan's ranking his list. I think he was talking about how like Tricarion he can't like wrap his mind around, but he thought this one was easier. And I mean, different strokes for different folks. Like, because I think this is actually a little bit more complex than Tricarion, but oh well. This one is about dinosaurs and about you being marooned on a mystical island that has dinosaurs, and it's broken up into 2 episodes. The first episode, I would say, is kind of tutorial-esque. It is its full game. It's not like you're sitting there missing half a game. No, the first episode is fully fledged, but it'll make sense in a second. But the first episode is basically your tower defense. Like everyone is trying to defend the colony or the settlement better than everyone else because you're trying to be the leader. And you get followers. Those are the victory points. And then you make them drink a bunch of Kool-Aid, and then you just mass suicide. That's end game. That's like way end game when you start killing off your own people. But before that, there's these dinosaurs that are coming down these tracks, and you can build up walls, you can send out soldiers, you can set traps, and all that contributes to gaining followers. It's a really cool dice worker system, because these dice have different icons, and they're neutral dice to begin with, but you can spend actions to actually change them to your own color, so that as they get rolled, anyone can use them. However, if someone uses your die, then I think it causes them to lose followers, if I remember right. So the more of your dice that are in the general pool, the better it is for you. Not that you don't gain anything for using your own die, it just hurts your opponents. But there's four different sections that are kind of like, hey, here's the resource section, here's the wall building section, here's that. It's extremely well done. And the way that certain rounds where it's like, okay, now whoever has the most followers will get this bonus. You can go on exploration missions where you can send workers to go on. That's going to get you unique bonuses and stuff like that. Episode 1 is very, very good. Episode 2 expands upon that to where now you've been there a while, you've settled, now you can go out and actually explore the island. And the reason why I said episode 1 is more of a tutorial is because everything you learned in that game applies to 2, which is fantastic. Like, it's not like, oh, here's episode 2, forget all of episode 1, here's new rules. That's not the case here. So it's just, and episode 2 is like kind of like it's tile laying. You're laying out the island, you're clearing out stuff to make camps, which then give you different ways to score victory points. It's there's a lot here. Like, it's Minecraft. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, this is their gateway game.
Right.
Minecraft, I think, is just right under Vita Lasarda games, and I think kind of for me at this point in time, Minecraft is probably my cap. Like,
Right.
I have no problem playing a Vita game. I think, again, they're masterpieces and they're an experience, but Minecraft just has the variety that I want from a game. They also, their themes for Anachrony, Tricarion, and this one, I think, are amazing to be brought into. So
Yeah.
So yeah, like, highly recommend this one. I do wish it could have been sold as 2 separate episodes,
Yeah.
because I think if you really like one but don't really like the other, then you kind of just have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they didn't go that route. So yeah, that's
Right.
my number 42, Perseverance.
Sweet. Well, my 42 goes in the opposite end of the complexity window.
Is it Ghost?
No, not that much. You actually own this game too, I believe.
Okay.
And there's so much variety out for this game right now. And to me, yeah, looking at my rest of my stuff, this is the quintessential game that uses the Machikoro mechanic. And that is Valeria Card Kingdoms. This was 20 last year, so it's fallen off. Mainly, I need to play that campaigny kind of expansion that came out.
Yeah.
Lastly, I haven't messed with that yet. But this is one of those ones. I mean, I love the art, obviously. I mean, I know you don't. I like the art for this, all the stuff on this. This is a tableau building game where you set out a grid from 1 through 12 of good guy character, like hero types, and then you have bad guy tableau up there as well. You're going to hire these guys into your tableau throughout the game, and you want to have a wide variety of numbers, because when you roll the dice, whatever numbers you have, that ability will pop off. The cool thing about this is it happens on everybody's turn, so not just your roll. So by the time the game's over, you're just like piles and piles of the little wooden tokens and stuff by the time it's done. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to defeat these stacks of bad guys. You choose whatever creatures you want. There's all these different versions, and they go down, and like, you start off and they're weak, and as you beat them, they get stronger and stronger. And then there's like a leader of that clan or whatever at the bottom. And you're just whooping up on stuff and trying to get the most most out of your or most bang for your buck with your dice. I mean, you could go all in on 7 if you wanted to, and stuff, but you're gonna it just takes it's just like any of those other games that use this mechanic. I mean, you can spread it out, you can choose the same number, try to go all in on that. But yeah, I mean, there's so much out for this game right now. Like I said, there's a little campaign kind of thing. I haven't really dove into that to see what it's even like yet.
Yeah.
But to me, this is the best of the Valeria games. Now, keep in mind, I just purchased. I haven't played it yet. The Siege of Valeria. It's a solo only tower build or tower defense style game, and there's a campaign expansion I got for that too. So we'll see how that goes once I get it
Cool.
played. But yeah, I mean, how can you not like the art on those cards, man? That's awesome stuff. But yeah, you
Who
know,
raised you?
but yeah, this is just, and there's tons of little module expansions even out you can add because there's domains you can purchase, which are just give you abilities and strict victory points and stuff.
Hmm.
There's all these different expansions you can throw in that add stuff. There's just a lot for this game, and
There is.
but it's still it's the replayability is awesome, and it's an awesome one.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, we do have to kind of try out that campaign, see if it's any good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and the last one for this segment, my number 41 is also new to this list. This one definitely made my top 10 of 2022. Very curious if Renegade, I believe is the company, if they're going to actually continue to support it or if it's kind of a one and done. Very awesome theme, and that is My Father's Work is Renegade. Awesome. Yeah, so My Father's Work is kind of an app-driven, scenario-based worker placement game where you are trying to live up to, not live up, but like complete your father's legacy. So everything that he was working on, you are the next generation trying to continue working on that. And this is one of those games that you definitely want to play on like a tablet or a actual laptop, because it's just there's many objectives that can be met by any various of players, and that's kind of dictate in which direction the story is going to go. And I think that that's really cool. It's something that's not done in worker placement games at all. You have different types of workers that can own, like you have like a caretaker. He can only do estate actions. He can't actually go out into, because he's like hideous. It's basically Igor. And then, but you can get like estate upgrades. That's like, hey, it's a disguise, and he can now go out into the town. But there are 3 major box scenarios that you can play. There's plague, there's witch hunting. I don't remember the third one, war. And those boxes come with a bunch of different cards and a bunch of like tokens and stuff that every game I've played of this, I have only used a few things from like the box, which is really cool based off the decisions that the players make. The theme is extremely strong in this one, especially around that kind of like Halloween time, that mad scientist feel. It's and it's also more personalized, so each character is kind of like, hey, this is the route that I took, and this is how the community sees me for this particular scenario. But also on top of that, it's a very, very good worker placement game that just really reaps the rewards. The production value is awesome for this. I really hope that they support it. I think that this could be one that Renegade could pop out just scenario boxes for and be like, oh, it's the zombie one. I don't know. I can't think of, but I'm not paid to to come up with scenarios. That's what they're for. That's what the designer, what was his name, TC Petty's for. But yeah, the only thing that's kind of weird about this one is it does have audio narration, but only sometimes. And I don't know why they did that. So it is kind of immersion breaking when you're trying to read stuff, but then they start reading and you're like, okay, I don't know why you're reading this one and not the one I just did before that.
Right.
But really, really good blend of worker placement, resource management, and like kind of and storytelling.
It's always
Fine.
sounded interesting, but I just don't know if I would ever really play it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it has a solo mode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know this designer like at all.
He did some stuff for Hostage Negotiator. He's done stuff. He's like did the GI Joe deck building game. And a lot of
Whoa.
stuff with that stuff, which that's actually good. We were talking about, we played the Transformers one. Like the GI Joe
Yeah.
one is way better than the Transformers one.
Oh, it is? Okay, well that's good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's done a few things. Coffee, that
Okay.
Viva Java game and stuff. So he's done stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd say this one is definitely like his kind of way bigger project. So yeah, this one is my 41.
Perfect. And my 41 was 36 last year. So it's fallen just a little bit. It was 18 and then 16 the years prior to that. You've mentioned this either in the last segment or the section before. I can't remember. But I finally got the 10th anniversary edition to get the rest of the stuff for it. And that is Smash Up. This one's just one of those classics,
Yeah.
It's been out for 10 years. And it's still going strong, I mean, they've slowed down on a lot of like the releases they were doing.
Mhm.
I think just because, I mean, shit, there's only so much stuff you can do, and
Yeah, without making it weird, without
yeah. So, and I haven't even cracked the 10th anniversary box to really try out those at all yet, but
Mhm.
but this is just one of those quintessential, this was kind of, the uniqueness of this was, I can take two different things and just shuffle them together. That was kind of one of the first times I'd ever seen that.
Yeah.
And then other stuff has kind of taken on that, over the years. But yeah, this one's just that the art is always cool on them.
Yep.
It's such a simplistic game, really. I mean, play an action, play a action, play a minion or whatever, and and then of course, unless you're the freaking wizards and you're constantly
Then you just
taking
go through your whole deck.
but yeah, you're just battling it out for control of a certain area until it explodes, and then you sort out points depending on who had the most there and stuff like that. Some of them, I mean, and they've done some cool, unique, thematic things with some of these, just like the mall that's right there. When it pops, you get victory point
for
for
each
all that.
minion.
Yeah, so I mean, I love the zombies. I try to get them as many times as I can, but yeah, as of right now, I need to put this other stuff in my whatever they called the last box, the biggest,
bigger, geekier box.
Yeah, but I don't know how full it's getting right now because I haven't added the Marvel stuff or this stuff yet.
It's pretty stuffed. Like it's especially I have all my cards sleeved, so maybe that's why.
I do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is just one of those games that's just always going to be around, just because it's the replayability and stuff on this is just bonkers, and it's not it's a game you're just not going to take seriously. Like, you could sit down and play this with pretty light gamers, and it's pretty simple to learn and stuff.
Yeah, but, I agree. This has been a hit every single time I play it. It's wonderful. So I mean, I'll keep buying it as long as they keep making it.
Yep, I didn't get the Disney.
I did.
I
did still get the Disney.
I don't get Disney, but
I didn't either. I mean, I obviously I liked half the cards. Nightmare Before Christmas, Mulan, Lion King, and I don't remember the fourth one. But yeah, I got that one. I got the Marvel one. They're there. But luckily they didn't go really weird like they did with Munchkin. So it's still just regular factions.
Yep.
Awesome.
So anyway, that's my 41.
All right. Well, that was it for this segment, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Stick around for the rest of the top 100. Games only get better from here on out. And yeah, let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.